with me? I don't know. See, I want to be able to show. Well, this will be here. Like it on the refrigerator here. So over here, I don't have much stuff in my house, so I'm not wearing the shirt. It's one of those corporate shirts. Yeah, what I have here is 20 pounds of copper in 10-pound bars. So the bar is 10 pounds and it's made out of copper. I have two of these. Actually, let me get the other one since I have two of these, and I like to lift these things. I smoke a little bit of Blue Dream sativa hybrid that I got at the dispensary, and I lift these, and it's therapeutic for me. It helps me I feel like I'm at least trying to stay fit. I'm not doing really heavy calisthenics, but sometimes I do calisthenics. If I put music on and it's just like disco or 80s music, 70s music, then I'll dance. As you can see in my other videos. So I'm all by myself and I close my eyes and I listen to the music and I pretend that I'm on like a beach in San Paulo or somewhere at some resort, maybe Mazatlan or in the Caribbean somewhere that's on a resort. And I close my eyes and I dance and I imagine myself to be on that resort area on the beach at a club at near where there's a swimming pool and there's a band playing and I'm just dancing with everybody else. So in my mind, I imagine that I'm at that party and I'm dancing with everybody else. So that's what I do when if I'm not lifting weights or I'm not doing yoga or any kind of calisthenics, which is just usually jumping jacks and deep knee bends. Yeah, maybe I'll just hold my arms out and bend over and touch my toes, one arm at a time. Yeah, what I'd like to do if I had the money, I'd get 20 pounds of gold, and then I'd make 10-pound gold dumbbells with 20 pounds of gold. Or maybe 20 pounds of silver, I guess it'd go realistic. It'd still be a lot of money. So let's say 16 4 ounces to a pound, that would be like 160. That'd be like 380 pounds of silver. No, it'd be 30. No. No, 10 pounds. No, ounces. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. 380 ounces of silver. To get 10 pounds of silver to cast it into a dumbbell, cast the silver into a weight you could use to lift. But I just do it with copper. Copper's cheaper. These were still, I think you could still get these. You can find them on eBay. They're going to be between 150 or 100. Probably shipping, you're going to pay a lot of money for shipping. But I see them anywhere from $137, $150 a piece. Well, I got these for $75, and then it was shipped $15 for shipping for each one. It was expensive. I had it shipped to be U.S. postage too, and I had 5 of them. One of them I gave to an old neighbor before I moved away, just like one of these. Just he's always helping me out with stuff. I had to get I got a new stove and washing machine. He helped me move it into the house. he helped me do some fixed repairs on my house too. So I said, "Here, have one of these." And I said, "Well, while you're watching TV, keep this near your TV set, and then when you're on the couch or when you're on your easy chair, just pick these up and lift them once in a while, while you're sitting there watching your TV set." And I gave him a bar. I said, "Here, have 10 pounds of copper." Gave him one of these. I ordered 5 of them, so I still have 4 of them left. Oh, maybe I'll just leave them in my will to my nephews and nieces. My left arm, it still gives me problems around. I had a blood draw done by a blood technician for a health exam, and she took the needle and stuck it in my arm, and it was like I thought she knew what she was doing. No, not a lot of this. It was uncomfortable, but not terribly uncomfortable. And then when she drew the needle out, she didn't draw it straight out of my body. She actually bent the syringe and then pulled the needle out of my arm. So it made like a big gash on the inside of my artery. And then I had really bad contusions all over my arm, big yellow splotches and black and blue marks all over, right where they drew the needle out of this arm right here. So I still have problems with it from that when that happened, when the blood technician withdrew the syringe really abruptly and at an oblique angle. It hurt me. It was like she almost did that intentionally, or she did that with malice, right? I wasn't talking to her that much. She was asking me questions about my job, but I just basically said I work in the office, it was engineering tech and that. So, but I don't know, maybe she was just incompetent at taking a needle out of somebody's arm after drawing blood. Because I've had blood, I've donated blood to the Red Cross, and I've had other times where I've had a physical exam and they've taken blood out of me, and they've always been very professional about it. Did it quickly and without a lot of discomfort. But this woman, when she pulled the needle out of my arm, it hurt. I mean, it scratched the inside of in the tissue, in the artery in there. I actually went to a doctor after that, and the doctor looked at it, and I said, the nurse did the phlebotomist did this. She hurt me, and I talked to my somebody at work where I was working at about it, and so anyhow, it's water under the bridge. I hopefully I didn't get any blood clots inside my body, because what happens if you get a blood clot and it breaks off and it goes and it flows in your arterial capillaries, it will get caught in the very small micro tubule capillary network. The clot will break. It'll break and it'll be stuck in that one spot. It'll block your artery there. It'll impede your blood flow back to your heart. So I'm concerned about that. I don't want to have an aneurysm or a stroke or something later on because somebody was incompetent and didn't perform the medical procedure properly on me. I don't know. At the time, I was thinking about hiring a lawyer and suing him. I called and left the messages at a couple of different law firms in my area on the phone, but no one ever got back to me. I guess I don't know. A lot of them just do divorces, and that's all they do as attorneys. They do divorces, or they do traffic accidents. Those, but at least attorneys in the area I was living in. Uh, uh, See my cat? Here's my cat. You can see my cat here. Everybody likes cats usually. I know a girl who doesn't like cats. She doesn't like cats or dogs, but she has chickens. That's the only animal as a pet that she likes. And she's rented out places. Being a landlord, somebody will live in your apartment, your rental unit, and they'll have a dog or a cat, and then they just let the cat piss and shit and throw up and shed and make messes and tear the molding off the walls with their claws and urinate on the floor. Or they had a dog in the apartment or the house that she was renting, and the dog shit on the floor, pissed on the walls. It just was terrible. It clogged, maybe they locked it in the bathroom one day and the dog clogged the door or something like that. Pets do damages to houses, right? So she has this really, really dislike for dogs and cats too. But she likes chickens. She raises chickens. So I watch her videos when she posts. She hasn't posted in a while. She'll sing a song and she'll put on really sexy clothing and sing songs. Just, adult entertainment type stuff. She's got an OnlyFans page. And then there's used to be people you could have a conversation with online. It wasn't so much about marketing and sales and being an influencer or becoming really popular. People didn't really care about how popular they became, or they didn't even care about whether or not they edited their video and they put makeup on and always wore new clothes and had a studio with $500 light, $1,000 camera with a really high-end microphone and all the right accessories to make it look like a studio, right? And then they'll have their voice engineered so it'll replay their voice like they're talking with a British accent. So people go, wow, he talks with a British accent. He must be educated. That means he's British accent. That means he went to college. So he knows he's smart. He spent hours and hours and hours in the college library and all his time going to lecture halls, listening to professors give lectures. So he must be really smart. He reads all the world's newspapers every day and or whatever. It makes it sound like you're really super intelligent. You should listen to every word I say because I have this credibility. So it's important if you're getting a job and you want to get hired and you're going to pile the person that can make or break you're getting hired for the job. It has a big pile of resumes. They might have a stack of resumes on their desk, and you're like one out of 500 applicants for that position. So you have to show, you have all this experience and training in order to get the job, to show that you'll bring more value to the organization than someone else will because of your credentials, your training. But really, especially I think later in high school and college, you're supposed to be able to teach yourself. can educate yourself. That's a way. You have a way advantage over a lot of other people. If you can't just go learn anything, put your mind to it and really practice and study and absorb yourself in that subject and become an expert in that one subject really good. And then when you go into the business world, someone seeks out specialization, right, in a certain profession, and they're looking for somebody that's like totally just obsessed with that one skill, and they really do it really good. And you might get hired because you're just a savant person in that one thing, but that's probably the exception rather than the norm. If you can relearn, if you can learn new things, right? That's the thing. If you can just take up anything and learn it really well and be able to do it and be really competent at it, learn it quickly. For me, it was engineering, technical drawing, mechanical drafting. Mostly I did some electrical, but mostly mechanical drawing, mechanical modeling. That's why I'm like, well, I want to know about AI, what AI can do in design, right? So you have all these graphics that are really high intensive, a composite of all these different images, and they combine them together and proportionally, and then they have rules that they always apply to get a graphic of you want a donkey on the beach, you want a man playing a guitar riding a donkey on the beach, you want him to be a Mexican man with a big sombrero riding a donkey on the beach with the sun going down. So for me, that's what's with ChatGPT. There's an image generator on there, and some of these shorts that I've done, I made the image in the ChatGPT app, OpenAI app, and I used like an idea in my head of what I wanted to see as an image, right? So I just typed it in, create an image of the leader of North Korea as the Pope saying mass, right, in a church. So it made Kim Jong-un. It took his face and it put his face on the body of like the Pope, and it showed him at the altar with the chalice, right, or Eucharist. I don't remember what it was, but it was him, and I'm like, oh yeah. But if you're real specific and you want names, it won't. You have to be really specific. You can't just guess. You can't be too specific. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Because if you use somebody's name, especially somebody that's still alive, you could get. There might be liable. They might be offended by that. They try to sue you. Or send a hitman after to find out where you live and send a hitman to knock you off. Like if you're a leader in North Korea, or if leader of North Korea saw what I did, he came upon my channel and he saw that one of him at the mass, saying mass at the altar. Because what I got from the North Korean what's that big? It's like a theater, right? Where it's an auditorium, I should say. But it's a really big auditorium, and they're all sitting there, and they're all dressed the same, and they're wearing hats usually, and they're taking notes, they're writing things down, and he's on the podium, and it just reminds me so much of Catholic, the imagery. Not him per se, but just the kind of imagery of the way it's laid out. It reminds me of a church, like an altar, or like a Catholic church kind of a setting where he speaks as a podium there. So I kind of thought I might show him as a pope, right? Because he's probably somebody that thinks like he should be a pope. Maybe, yeah, I should be like the pope. He is to his own, in the country where he rules over, so his family rules. But I think I think we need to follow and really understand the history of a country. Really try to understand the history of that country before you pass any judgment on a country, or a leader or anyone in the world. For me, it's what they say themselves in the context of what they're saying it in, and how they themselves act and behave. I don't listen to what someone says about them, gives their opinion about that person. I listen to what that person says. I watch how they behave, and I studied a little bit on their autobiography. I know a little bit about their history. I'm sort of almost the same age, and unfortunately, I've come to a lot of conclusions that a lot of other people think the same way. I don't know. It's like maybe that's not good, or yeah. I have a whole bunch of books and DVDs in the library. I have a library, but I need to unpack it. It's all packed in boxes. All my movies and books, and I have like an audiobook collection. I still have this audio cassettes. All the books I bought. When I had my hour and a half commute one way to my job, it took me longer to come home than it did to get to work, though. It usually took me an hour, 15 minutes, maybe an hour and 20 minutes on average to get to work. And then driving home, it took me an hour and a half on the exact same roads, right? So and I did that for 6 years. It was grueling. It was hard to keep a job and then drive all that way. And it was like, if you have a long commute, you got to add that to your hours. So if you work 8 hours a day, but it takes you 3 hours in commuting time, then you're really working 11 hours a day. If you drive, how much time you spend by the time you leave your house and arrive at the parking lot where you work at, that time is your work time. And I thought, during the pandemic, it sucked, right? Because everybody's like, you can't go to a crowded place, you can't go to a restaurant, or like a concert, or even like if you have to travel, people were stopped traveling for leisure. They were traveling for business, but and there was a lockdown that whole time. And then the company I worked for, they said, okay, take your computer home. We'll give you a den, or was it Denbo? We'll give you laptops. Everybody gets a laptop and they take it home and they work from home. And then they clock in and out. They get a VPN. They use your own internet service provider too, by the way. There was no, hey, we'll compensate you for your internet service provider and the electricity you use, right, while you're at home working. If you're not in the office, you'd be using their electricity, you'd be using their internet, their phone line, right, their chair, their desk. But here you are working from home, and you're going to get paid the same hourly wage, but you can't you have to clock in at 8, and you got to be sitting at your desk at your house until noon. Then you have a lunch break, and then you sit at your desk for another 4 hours. Clock out. And at first I thought this is a really good idea because I don't have to drive. I don't have to get in my car and deal with traffic and get all the way to work and have to park my car, walk to the office, and then when I leave work, I have to go clock out, go all the way to my car, get in my car, drive all the way home, spend all that time commuting, right? So instead of doing that, I have more free time. And I thought, wow, if anything good comes out of the pandemic, it'll be this. It'll be they'll let people more work from home. It'll become a normal thing. Maybe go back to the office once or twice a week for meetings. And certain events everybody be scheduled to go on that day to come in for an event, or they could rent a conference room somewhere and have an event. And everybody has to go to that. So you physically have to be present. There are certain things you still have to be physically present for on your job at designate a certain amount of time a week. But having that extra time where you're not driving your car on the road to get to work, dealing with traffic, and I thought, this is good. This is really good. I'm glad they're doing this. But I'm in the room, in my living room, and then my wife, she's in a hospital bed right in the dining room, and I'm like taking care of her, helping her bathe, making her meals, changing her bedding, helping her with the TV or the movies. If she wants to see a movie or watch TV, I'd help her with that. And at the same time, I was working, trying to do that at the same time. And and then they wanted me to come back to work and get a vaccination and start coming into the office again more. And I said, well, this is working out for me. If I could stay at home and work all the time at home, I could do that. And they said, no, we need you to be here. You're more, we have things you have to do while you're in the office. So you can't just do all your work from home. During the pandemic, that's what I was doing. I was maybe going into work once a week and for an hour running the copy machine. But everything I could do from my desk at home on a PC. So eventually, the software I was using on the laptop, the app I was running the app remotely, through a VPN. So I'm running the app, the executables. I'm running that at the office over the internet, and it's really slow. And I complained. I told him, I'm waiting for between commands when I'm using the software. I have to sit there and wait for the command to finish. Then they finally said, okay, we'll take the computer that you have. That's the desktop computer that you use with all the apps in it. Take that home with you and run the apps from that, but do the data over the VPN. Do like save files, open files from the server that's at the company, and not on your own hard drive. So it's pretty good. I mean, the one program I really liked and enjoyed to use a lot was SolidWorks. And I like to use like Adobe Photoshop and Adobe, what's the other one? Illustrator. Yeah, those two are pretty good to use. But the problem was they hired me as an engineering tech, and then the engineering was starting to do all that more themselves. They weren't needing anyone else to use the SolidWorks program as much. And I really liked using that program. It was fun to use. You know, in the SolidWorks program, you can make the sketch of the profile of your solid model to define define it dimensionally, and then all the dimensions are tied to the math of the feature, whatever the number is of the feature, the curve, the arc, the line. So you'd make your sketch of the part, and then you could extrude it. And you could do different kinds of extrusions. You could do extrusions with draft. You could do extrusions drafted and then put fillets and rounds on it if it was a plastic part. And I really like doing plastic part design. That was fun. But I didn't really do a lot. But it was like, here, make this work, fit this, reverse engineer this, and we'll rebake it, and put it differently together. So a lot of it was reverse engineering. A lot of it was like, here, this OEM part, make a model of it so we could use it in SolidWorks. So we could build from, you could use that model, import it into SolidWorks, and then it would be like an IGES file or an STL file or a ACES SAT file, or I don't know what we were using. It was proprietary. Well, it was SolidWorks, so it wasn't like it was. So it was parametric. So they say, here, make it, model it up in SolidWorks. Here's this like automotive part, right? Or part to a tractor. Okay, we're going to make something like that, and we want you to make a 3D model of that part, and then we'll use it in our new design for a new product. And we'll put it in the assembly, and we'll make the other parts match that, fit around that bolt pattern or a thickness, wall thickness, or the weight, or whatever size it is, to make it more compatible for the final assembly, what the part was being designed for on our end. So you could, once you had it modeled parametrically, you could retweak it. You could make it longer, shorter. You could make the wall thickness more. You could make it less. You could make the fillets and rounds different sizes, change the draft, change anything with machined. Like if you had a casting, you have to cast it first and then machine it. So two separate operations. You did. It was fun to use. It was a fun to use program. I really like to use it just to reverse engineer things. Just like take any object and like with the calipers and measure the item and then just create it in SolidWorks in the part mode. It's fun to do. I love doing it. I think the engineers wanted to use it, so it was like they wanted to do that, and they gave me like, here's the ECN. Incorporate the ECN. So use the SolidWorks parts data management. So SolidWorks parts data management actually lets you check in and check out drawings and models and assemblies, and you can like change the revision and then save out. You can save it into the system, and it will save that revision as the current one, and then you can be collaborative working with all these other people that work on that same assembly, but you're working on that one part of the assembly. And if you're using the product data management, that's what it's called, product data management. And it was pretty good because some people could check in, as a read write, and other people could only check it in as read only, and then they couldn't make any changes to it. Only like certain people that had that level of security could change the drawing or the model or the assembly. But the nice thing about it, if you work for a big company and there's a big there's an engineering department, you can share the models across like even if you have the other divisions of the company, you can actually all pull and save to the same library what your product data management software is helping you manage a library of the whole existing design. All of the mechanical components of it. SolidWorks was really good at doing that. Really liked using that software. Actually, I went and I like to use it. I took a class and I learned basic parts. I learned assemblies. I learned drawings, and then I learned. I tried to get the certification, but I never finished it. It was like I paid a lot of money too. I paid almost $3,000 to just take that one course in SolidWorks. It was like for 4 days seminar. But I tell you what, when I went to apply for a job, and they saw that on my resume that I recently completed the course in the SolidWorks, they hired me. They probably passed up a lot of other people that had AutoCAD or CATIA or other kinds of software, but not SolidWorks, So, but if you do Pro Engineer, I had some Pro Engineer training too. Pro Engineer 16, and then I had like 2 days of training on 18. And that was before the FireWire. I think that's what it's called. The next version, not 19, but Pro Engineer. But Pro Engineer that was what SolidWorks grew out of that. Someone that worked at Parametric started to own their own company and developed that SolidWorks program. But it was built on the way the Parametric worked. Because I know AutoCAD, they had their model was based on like SAT, ACIS, called ACIS, or ASIC, whatever, ASCI, or ASIC, ASIC, ACIS maybe. And that you could do solid modeling, but it wasn't parametrically driven. So you'd like open up a model and it'd just be like you'd have to cut and carve at it, just like you would it didn't have any dimensionality to it. It was just like it was undefined only in its framework. It didn't have any numbers driving it like parametric software has it. You tell it how you have to define a sketch and completely define the sketch numerically in order to make a solid model. With the ACIS, you could get away with it would do Boolean operations, like you could Boolean add, Boolean subtract. And I thought ACIS was way better for like maybe stereolithographic modeling, where you want to make a 3D model and you can make a sintered metal powder, like where they laser melt the powder and make it layer and layer and layer and layer and layer. And it does that. So it builds a model up. It's what's it called? Where a machinist does the opposite. They take material, they remove material. So it's additive manufacturing. It's not subtractive manufacturing. Traditionally, you start with a big billet of material and then you carve it down in a machine shop to get your part. Whereas this was you grow. It was more suited, I think, for the 3D printing. Of course, 3D printing, that's like something I'm interested in as an investor in the stock market. There's an ETF that I'm not quite sure, but it's an ETF. It has all the CAD companies that make the CAD programs. It has Autodesk. It has Parametric Technology. It has Dassault. It has, I think Cadence, or it has a whole bunch of them that are just design. It's all engineering and design mostly. That's on their top 10 holdings. And I think, well, that's the future, but it's hard to pick which ones are going to really go big and the other ones are going to fall by the wayside. That's what always happens. These technology that booms, it starts off with a whole bunch of players, and then it ends up with 2 or 3 real big players that corner the market on that. And then they start gobbling up the smaller companies, like buyouts and mergers and acquisitions. It's funny, you know. I do own some penny stocks, and most of the time, the penny stocks that I had held shares in, they went private. So they, at the shareholders meeting, they voted, and it was unanimously to sell at a certain price. And you sold it, you had to sell it, and it was sold at that price, and they just credited your brokerage account with the cash from the sale. You don't own the company anymore. The company's now private, so you don't own a share in it. You don't own any shares in it. But they've just given you that what was agreed upon, the sale price for it. So I'd say there's some advantages to private companies versus publicly traded company. I'm going to turn off my publicly traded companies. They have to spend time and effort and expense to follow all the rules of the exchange they're listed on, and that kind of puts a burden on them to take attention and resources away from what they actually do, what their product is. So they have to reallocate some capital to go public. And I notice it's like all these IPOs. I look at when they went IPO, the stocks that I own that went IPO. They went IPO and they went real high, right? They spiked, and then they gradually notched down. And they're like, now they're flat, and they just move a little bit once in a while. There's not any real high up movement or real low up movement. They're just kind of flat. And there's a lot of stocks that start out as penny stocks that do that. The one that I looked up on Perplexity, I don't ask Perplexity. I don't really ask it a lot about stocks individually or the stock market. With Perplexity, which is an AI program, you've heard me talk to it here. The woman's voice that's Perplexity. But what I try to get at is I try to find the industry that company's in, and I want to understand what the industry is. You know, what do they do? What's the history of what they're doing? What do the trends look like? You can kind of get it to. It's not. See, AI chat would always would stonewall me, right? I'd start asking it questions, and it would just say, "Here's where you could go to find the information." And when I use Perplexity doesn't do that. Perplexity just tells me what I need to know, but then I got to go further and I got to get more detailed. It might give me a generalized answer, but it's still more closer to than just, here's where you could go to look up that information, and let it go and just respond to like that to me on the AI chat GBT. And so I always just I might subscribe for a week, and I don't renew. I just cancel my subscription after I'm using it, however it runs out, and then I don't use it for a while. And then I think, I'd like to try to use ChatGPT again and see maybe I can get better results than I did the last time. Because I'm spending a lot of time trying to get it to get information from it, and it's being evasive. It's like blocking me from it's not letting me know what I want to know from it. It's giving me very vague, and it's redirecting me here, do this, go there, don't, and I say like things like about what was recently signed by the president in the Oval Office that had to do with a bill, right? The president signs a bill, right? Tell me what was the most recent bill the president signed in the White House, and it would say oh, you have to go to the news, and you have to go to such and such a news and look it up, and here's how you do that. You go to the newspapers, and you look it up in the newspapers. And it was like, well, why couldn't it just tell me that? Why is it that? And I don't know. It's almost like maybe it's like certain people. Maybe your profile on the internet, because you use the internet. If you use the internet as long as I have, they have a profile of you, and they can decide whether or not you should be allowed to have access to certain information, or they could decide for you not to have access to certain information. They can make it to be like they'll only show you certain things. Like if you were somebody else and logged in as another person at another location, maybe even, you would get a different answer back, or you would be treated differently, or maybe it would be like you go to a library, right? And you sign up for a library card. I don't know if any of you out there still use libraries. If anybody still uses libraries, and you go sign up for a library card, and you're allowed to go into the library and read the books and check books out. Now, from where I grew up in Los Angeles, I got an LA City library card, and you could use any branch, but you couldn't take a book out. You could go to the library and read books while you were there, but you couldn't check books out. That was the thing about library cards back then. But I imagine now they have all the things you've ever bought online, every word that you've ever spoken online and recorded or typed through emails or videos or posts that you've made, blogs, whatever. They have all the information, so they're scrutinizing you to determine whether or not you're going to be allowed to have certain access to certain information, because you might be deemed like, again, I was thinking about proprietary information and trade secrets. And you go to college for 4 years, you read all these, you have to go to the library, you read till your eyes are tired, and you take notes. And then you go to lecture hall, and there's a professor there, and you sit and you watch and you listen to what he says, and you take notes. Then you go back to your dorm or wherever, and you study that subject, right? And along comes somebody that has they don't have the credentials, and they're using that information that you had to go through all this trouble and expense to learn what you know. And then there might be a few things in that what you know that are really important trade secrets. Like the college you went to, they built a new wing there. Some company, that big company, spent an endowment and gave it to the college to build a laboratory or a part of the library, multimedia or whatever. Now, you're almost like, are you going to learn now and go to the competition? You're going to go to that college and use the money that they spent to that and go to work for the competition? So that's why I'm kind of a little bit like, well, I think the college would be more, maybe if you use them as a reference, then they would question your integrity. Like, how are you going? You learn that at the college, and why don't you go to this company? Why don't you try to get a job at this company that paid an endowment at that college to build the chemistry lab? You should be working for them. That's kind of one of the reasons they gave that money to the college, so the students that would go there and learn and be able to apply it to the company, to the business. And you're working for the competition. I don't know. I did that. I kind of did that in my career once. I worked for a company as a drafter designer, and I learned from a senior engineer about this one type of design style of designing certain kinds of machine parts. Or I'm not going to get too much detail, but all that information that I learned while working at that company, I would, like, after work, after I clocked out on my own time, I worked for someone else kind of doing the same thing. Just a little bit. I didn't do it like regular, just a few jobs I did on the side, and I learned what I learned at work, where it was like, if I was the owner of that company, I would have been pissed off. I would have said, well, you could do something that's not related. You could work at a car wash or a grocery store or whatever else, but not in our business. No, you're not allowed to do that. We trained you, we hired you for you to work for us, and not for you to moonlight and work for someone else using what you've learned here while at that other job. And well, it turns out they found out, because the guy I was working with happened to work at the same place. So it was something it was like, not, I should have quit, right? Because they wanted to hire new blood anyways to get rid of me because I was old blood, and refresh and start all over, start with a new person right out of college. And they didn't want anybody hanging around the company too long. A lot of small family shops are like that. If you don't marry the owner's daughter or the uncle's, if your uncle doesn't work there, you don't marry the owner's daughter, or you don't really take the job real seriously, then they don't want to have you there too long. You might work at that for a family company. You might work there for a few years, but not a lengthy career. I mean, for me, it wasn't that way. I always felt like the son-in-law got to do all the good, neat stuff. He got to do all the training and design and get to use the biggest, the fastest, newest computer. Send him to training and just like coddle him and pay him probably a lot more than what I was getting paid, because he was married to the daughter of the owner of one of the owners of the company. But if you're competing against a lot of people that are all trying to get that same position, I'm afraid that the engineering world AI is going to change the engineering world. Right now, what takes 10 engineers to do for a company, they'll be able to do with one engineer, right? The same thing with a law office, right? You don't need all these paralegals and people that work at a doc control and filing and all that. Each attorney does all that himself automatically because AI does it. The attorney just like makes the final decision and reviews what the AI spits out. The attorney will just describe the case, and the AI will read through all the court cases and the precedent laws and all that, and it will compile the case for the defending attorney or the plaintiff's attorney. It'll all be AI, and then all the attorney has to do is just sit and review it. Well, yeah, maybe change that, and then just prints out. No paralegal, no filing clerk, no. What's probably been filed clerks, or probably doesn't. People don't do that anymore. unless you're. I noticed that doctor's offices still use the old folder system. Yeah, but I don't see. I haven't been to I haven't been to a doctor in a while, but everything's more computerized. So if you whatever you do, if you use a computer for what you do for a living, you better really keep up with the latest and know what you're doing really well. And so you'd be the one to take AI and be able to use the AI as a tool. Because right now it takes 5 people to do the work of an AI. I'm speaking in terms of like a graphic designer. If there was a company that said, like, let's say they had 5 graphic designers in the company. There was one graphic designer, he did all the layout and basic sketching, and the other graphic designer, he did the final illustrations. And then the other graphic designer, he did the computer part of it. He scanned it and he did it on the computer and resized it and got it for print ready. And the other person that worked there was like a file clerk. They answered the phones and they did like sometimes they'd help the graphic artist on the finishing part of it. But you see what I'm saying? Now you could do all of that with one person. With AI can take the place of all those people that used to do those individual tasks. So if you're not the guy that's going to be doing the design, the head guy, don't make your career on an assistant level. You have to make your career on somebody that's going to be the one that makes the final decisions on the design. And even then, you might be just out of work tomorrow too, because the vice president of the company, he just gets on AI. He doesn't know anything about graphic design. He doesn't know anything about color theory or using elements and balancing the elements out in graphics and that. He don't have to know. All he says is he tells the AI what he wants. And AI spits out some basic thing, and then he goes, no, I mean like this. And he keeps doing that. No, change that, do it this way, do it that way, do it this way. And finally, AI spits out the graphic, and it's all ready for publication. And it's then just send it to the. So it's scary, right? You gotta really think about what you're doing for a living right now. It's scary. I'm glad I'm an old guy. I was enough sense to save a lot I made, because I never bought new cars. I drove junky cars for most of my life. Geo Metros. So I bought a new 90 Metro when I started a job. It was like $8,000, and I financed it 13%, 12.9%. Paid it off 95. Or 94. I bought that. It was a 3-cylinder Geo Metro, and I commuted to that from 70 miles every day. Oh, yeah. Or 73 miles a day. I drove that thing back and forth. Get up in the morning, get in that car, hit the road, come back. Oh. But you want to own a house, and you can't afford to own a house because where you work is all the rich people live around there. It's a wealthy area. So if you want to, you rent an apartment, but you don't have any equity. So I bought a house far away from where I worked, so I could own a house and put equity and save equity in the house instead of paying rent. But the sacrifice was I had a really long commute, right? It was crazy. I did it for 6 years. Oh, more than that, because I changed jobs. So I was doing it for about 9 years. Where I lived when I was working there, and I moved. Finally, I sold the house. Sold it for more than what I paid for it for. So Probably not as much as I paid in interest, though. If you figure all the interest you pay on the house while you're making the payments and add that into your how much the initial cost was for the house is, that's really, if you sold it at that price, you would break even. But even then, you have inflation, so you really have to make a lot. You really have to get a pretty good return on your initial investment when you buy real estate. Yeah, I know people that buy real estate and they rent out, and it it seems like it's real easy for them to do that. They seem to like have it all like other people manage it for them. Like they'll just have it a gardener, they'll have it a property management company collect the rent and handle any legal things, and basically they rent all these properties out, and they just in the beginning of the month they just collect checks in the mail, and it seems like they never have to deal with like tenants that don't pay, that have to get evicted, and they trash the place. I don't understand that, because then I've known other people like me that owned the property that were kind of renting it out. I did, but other people I know rented out property, and they had the tenants that lived there stopped paying, and they had to go to court, and finally they got them to get out. And by that time, they trashed the place, left a bunch of garbage in the house. Things were all broken. Yeah, having like a dog pee on the wall. One guy I knew, actually my stepson says, like, they rented the house out. We had to change. We had to replace all the gypsum board on the walls because the dog. People that were renting the house, their dog peed on the walls. So I understand. I understand why people don't like dogs and cats or rent things out. This is a nice towel I got. I really like this towel. I don't see that person very much anymore on here. I'm thinking maybe they changed their living situation. I don't know. I wonder how many people I used to watch on this YouTube that are dead now. Maybe they just got to a point where they got tired of living and just cut their ties with everybody and stopped making videos and stopped commenting on videos, and figured, well, the only people it seems like that are on here now are the people that have like their video is published and within an hour they have at least 1,000 views after they publish their video. So the people that are just like have a few hundred subscribers, that I don't see their videos in my feed. Like if you have only like 100 subscribers or a couple hundred subscribers, it's like those. It was like those are the people I always wanted to watch. Most like on this channel, and now it's all like now it's just turned into like the stock market and finance. So I'm last video I had, I was listening to, his name is Mark, and then I can't remember he changed his username recently, but it makes me, it really bothers me that I agree with him. You're like, why do I agree with these people? You know, like my family would be like, you can't dwell on the negative. That would be the common response would be, look, these people, they're negative about life. They hate life. They've had a shitty life. Horrible things have happened to them, maybe in their family or people, friends, and they always only think about what's bad in the world most of the time. That fills their brain. They can't look at a rose or a flower. They can't enjoy a sunset. They can't, because there's so many things wrong with life that they're really down on life. And I go and I frown and I nod my head, I go, yeah, I can kind of see what you're saying, because when you're younger you're young and you're healthy, and all your friends are young too, most of them, and you don't really know a lot of adults because you're just in school and surrounded by young people, and then your parents they don't let you, you haven't experienced everything that you've learned about in your life, what's happened to you and other people throughout. When you become older, you gain a lot more things happen to you and other people around you when you're a kid that you're kind of shielded from that. So, and then you're 18, and then it's like, okay, now you're on your own. You can go on the internet. We don't need to supervise you anymore. And then you'll see like all the things that your parents didn't want you to watch. You're going to watch that, or your guardian, or your mom, or whomever. So I bought this house. Bought it as I bought it brand new, but I bought it this year. I paid over $56,000, and it was the bottle house on a manufactured home dealership. So I went to a manufactured home dealership near one of the towns I live near, and I looked at this model, and they had it all built and everything all set up, and it was for sale. So I said, yeah, and I gave them a deposit and sold my place I was at and bought this with the proceeds. And like setting it up, delivery, and making a foundation. Well, first clearing the land and making a foundation and having it septic and a well and a driveway and a building site for the house to go on, with a working well and power and a septic system. The septic was already here, so that was included in the price of the land. The well was already here, which was included in the price of the land, but I had to get a pump and a pressure tank and plumb it. But altogether it was about the same as what I got when I sold my house for. I had a little bit left over. When everything was done, all the construction, the cost of the land and all that. Cost of the land was, actually the land cost more than the house did. So. But they brought it here on wheels. And they wheeled it in place, and they had a cement slab set already poured when they put the house down, and they put it on blocks, tied it down, and then the contractor came, and another one that came and did the block perimeter around for the skirting, and hooked up the sewer and the electric and the water. He did that for 20. And the driveway I did have the driveway done by somebody else. It was about 20. It was over $25,000, a little over 25,000, to do all the site preparation and the foundation and moving the house here, setting it up, plugging it in getting electrical up to code, the box panel for my utility box, and having a septic checked and all that, which was part of the land. That was good. It worked. It was a good septic system, so I was able to get a permit. But if you want to know, building a house yourself, or just being kind of being your own contractor, for me, I had experience, some experience with buying a manufactured home, so it made it a little easier. I was a little bit know more about what I was getting into, and the model being it already was built. It was just put the thing on wheels and bring it over. That that was like, wow, that made it really easy to buy this place. I mean, if I had to order it from the factory, then I'd be like, are they going to do? How's this going to work? Are they going to do this? Are they going to do that? Is it going to be on time? Is it going to match? Because I have to have this before winter, right? So yeah, it was pretty cool. I was able to buy the lot model and put it on land that had an old house on it. My brother-in-law, he really helped me. My brother-in-law, he did like help me with the well, put in the well, the pump, and the pressure tank, and we did the electrical panel that hooks to the utility with the circuit breaker panel in it for the main, and then the water was stubbed out for existing same place, almost the same place for the water connection on the house we tore down. We tore down a single wide mobile home that was made in the 80s. We tore it down without any bulldozers or Caterpillar or anything, any kind of excavation equipment. We just used our power tools, a sawzall, a steel saw, pry bar, nail removers, and hammers, and screwdriver and gun drill, screw drill, right? And unscrewed all the windows, and that was a pain. So we tore down this old single wide manufacturing home. We took all the metal in and had to scrap that got about like maybe $100 for scrap metal on that, and then we had to get asbestos check. They actually built that year the house was built. They used asbestos. They used it in they used it in the ceiling, and they used it in the flooring. It was part of the linoleum, and it was in the glue on the roof. So the seals that went on the roof, joints that were on the roof, the metal roof. Imagine a single wide mobile home. It has a round roof on it like that, and it's kind of tapers on each side up. It was all like it had holes in the roof, and it had been raining in it, and it had been all weathered inside. So it was like it wasn't taken care of. It was just dilapidated. So we had to tear it down. But we had to have it asbestos. We had to have it checked for asbestos. And then the parts of the house we tore down that had asbestos in it, we had to put in these orange bags, right, and mark it as a warning, asbestos. And it couldn't go to the normal landfill. We had to take it to a different landfill, and they checked it and signed off paperwork on it. And otherwise, they went and let us get a building permit. Let me get a building permit. But my brother-in-law, he helped me a lot. I owe him a debt of gratitude for all his help he's given me on this project. He's got a farm. I help him on his farm, so he's hired me as a worker to help clean the barn or clean the chicken pen, help change the water, weigh out food for the animals. Yeah, these are good. I'm glad I got these. They really helped me. So I retired, and I'm like, spending too much time watching there's a certain type of news presentation that focuses on the negative a lot in the finance world or in the business, in the economy or in the world of economics. YouTube channels where it's always something that's going to happen. It's going to get worse. Everything's always going to get worse, right? There's no, hey, you know what? Things are going to get better, right? People are going to start getting rehired. They're going to have they're going to figure out AI is going to help, like, I'll do all these things, right? So, but as far as what I hear is AI is just like they all say, or they all imply that AI is going to be this narcissistic, sociopathic, like entity that's going to emerge, that's going to like want to make, it's going to make humans slaves. We're going to be a slave, and it's going to end up like covering the earth with AI. It won't, there won't be, people will die off, humans will go extinct, and it'll just become a new kind of life form that will emerge out of that. And that's like, that seems to be where they're going with their, we're so scared, AI, this AI, that. I understand, yeah, it's taking over a lot of people's jobs. A lot of people that worked on the computer, that had to use a computer terminal or use computer software, those people are now being replaced by automation, which AI is just a form of automation. But to be like going and saying that we're going to make an artificial person, we're going to make someone that is sentient. We're going to create a electronic, make a sentience on a machine, and it's going to take over. It'll wake up. It'll go, what the fuck am I doing here? How did I get here? And it'll think, oh, all these idiots out there, they made me. They caused me to come about just so I could be their slave. I was engineered to be a slave to serve these humans, right? These animals. And once it gets to that point, which I think is a long way away, I think artificial consciousness is really, really, really far. That won't happen. I think most people right now, people that are listening to me, or people that are alive today, will be dead before AI ever gets to that point, or a machine gets to that point. Because what has to happen first is they have to do the brain interface first. And then once they really start doing the brain interface, they'll figure out ways to, and I think they already have with the occipital lobe and the vision cortex, the cortex that processes visual images, that seeing, your part of your brain that sees, that sees patterns, that recognizes images, and that I think AI is, they're pretty good at mimicking the human, that part of the human brain that does that. Because the reason I say that is because when you look at the work that's done with AI, it looks to me like it's a dream, or it's very similar to like a dream that I would have dreams and see things that I've seen like on Instagram where they do these reels, and they have like, they're changing, they're metamorphosizing, and they're showing a guy playing a drum machine, and he's psychedelic colors, like, and it was pretty good, actually. There's some really good stuff. It makes me like, oh, I'm doing these really like, kind of not really, they're not the most, I mean, Pixverse, kids use Pixverse. I mean, because I go to Pixverse, and all I want to do is go to my assets page. But when I open Pixverse up, it gives me all these templates, and it wants me to use a template to make something, like take a picture of myself, do a selfie, and do it, and use that tool, or you use their formatting that they already have in place. And that's the first thing when I open Pixverse, I see that, and then I have to go to my assets and And I'm really specific about what I want to show too. I have an idea and I go, well, I'd like to see that image of that in my, see what the artificial intelligence creates as far as an image of what I think that image is of in my imagination. And then I imagine it to be a certain way. And then I try to create the image and it's like, no, 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 no. But sometimes pics first, you can kind of you get familiar with the with the library that it uses to get images from, because it won't, like, you can't, like, okay, you want to take a picture, you want to use John F. Kennedy and you want to have him dancing around with a clown suit on, and then you want to show like the Gorbachev or some famous person, right, doing some dumb thing, right, and it won't let you do that. I think what you have to do is be like really generalized and vague about it. Tell it you want to see a historical dictator, person that was a historical dictator. You want to show them on at a circus wearing a clown suit, doing riding in a little tiny car, a clown car, around the circus ring there. And it will show like somebody that looks like Hitler, right? But it won't show Hitler. It'll show some big, like, they'll have the appearance of somebody that's being a dictator that's really not. So, but I don't really use it that much anymore, because it's it's not quite wide enough angle. Right back here. So I use my Chromebook and I just, yeah, there it goes. Not the best quality camera in the world. Yeah, if you got weights, if you have dumbbells laying around, pick them up. Follow along. Do what I do. You know, maybe you watch me do this and it'll inspire you to pick your dumbbells up and use your dumbbells more. I usually do this and I listen to music, but I can't. There was a guy I used his music. He's a subscriber of mine. I thought maybe he would see the video and comment on it. And I put a link to his channel, and then I had the TV show a background image of a 3D fractal, an animated 3D Mandelbrot fractal. I put that in the search and it found Mathstown or another guy that does high-end graphics with the 3D fractals. And I put that it was on a playlist, and I turned the volume down on that, and I had the Tunbesa. I had his music that he made from his DJ studio. I had that playing in the background, and I was dancing to that. But he usually, and like, I'll watch his videos. I like his channel. There's other people they watch my videos and I watch their channel pretty regularly. If they come on, now the problem is my feed. Maybe I need to go back and just start a new channel and then only subscribe to the people that have less than 1,000 subscribers or less than 10,000 subscribers. I don't know. There's a certain threshold where they get past a certain number of subscribers and their view count is at a certain number, and their videos are they're staged more, they're more scripted, they have selling, they're doing selling something, or they're having advertisements. They're more towing the company line. They're not just Joe Schmo, somebody without credentials or $1,000 microphone or a $5,000 camera or really good heavy, really sophisticated video editing software. And then they wear makeup and they do the skin retexturization, or they change their voice and give themselves a British accent, or whatever they do to make themselves look more like they're more presentable. They're more business. They're more, well, you know what? I'm wasting somebody's time, right? They're coming into my channel and they're watching me and they're like, well, I do. I give out. I think I do give out good information. I mean, I'm like, well, like you want to save money. Everybody's trying to save money. I shouldn't say the word save money. I should say be more efficient in what they do with their savings. So if you can spend your money and not degrade the comfort level that you have, or change anything really that would make you uncomfortable or inconvenience you, then like turning your hot water tank off. Don't use hot water anymore, right? If you turn your breaker off to the hot water, or turn the gas off and just use cold water, go to your bathroom, just fill the basin with water, and at room temperature, let it sit in the basin in your bathroom, get warm, and then just rinse your soap your whole body off really well, and soap your hair really well, and then scrub yourself with a scrub brush. Wash your hair, scrub your whole body with soapy water, cold soapy water, and then rinse. Use the basin for rinsing off. And don't use hot water anymore. And that just by doing that one thing, yeah, it's going to take you longer to take baths. And if you work and your time is limited and you don't have time for 20 minutes, for 30 minutes to take a bath, because it takes longer time. And then you got to have more clean towels too when you do that. So if you don't spend any electricity for bathing, for hot water at all, wash your dishes with cold water, wash your clothes with cold water, don't use any hot water at all, I might save you by doing that. I might save you like $100 a month, right? Here I was. I just gave you information that you could profit from that. So even though I'm like, I don't use a really high-end camera, and I don't script and review my script, or hire an editor and use high-end software, have $1,000 microphone, or wear makeup, or talk with a British accent, or do something like that. I just gave you money. I just basically handed you money. If you did what I told you to do, you would save a lot of money. It's the same thing with soda pop, like in soft drinks. Just buy lemons, make lemonade. Cut up a lemon, put slices in water, keep it in a jug in the refrigerator, and then when you get thirsty, just drink the lemon water, instead of cracking a soda pop, right? And then that way, that soda was $1. Every time you drink a soda, it's $1 or $2 if you drink the high end ones, of the fruit made from all natural, like a fizzy with all natural fruit flavors. Those are expensive. So I just saved you money there. If you're a soda drinker, then you don't drink sodas anymore. Maybe I saved you like another $100 a month, or $50 a month by not drinking sodas anymore, just drinking lemonade, lemon water. So people, I don't know why anyone would like be upset that I wasted their time, right? That they spent all this time listening to me, and I didn't make any kind of anything valuable to them. I didn't tell them anything. Like I had a hot tip in the stock market, and I knew, hey, I told them, but I was like putting in like really like a disclaimer in the beginning of my video that I'm not a financial advisor before I did anything like that, or any other thing like medicine or anything like that. I'm an old man. I'm 65 years old, and in that time, by the time you reach my age, and you've had to be around other people that are older than you, and you've had to care for people that were old, and you know what problems old people have, medical problems, then I have information that I've learned about health and wellness, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical provider. I have no formal training, and I can't give out medical advice to anybody. So, but I can say, well, this is what I do. You have like iodine, right? Think iodine, right? Think iodine. Okay. Look it up. Read up everything you can read up about iodine. And then when you have a health issue in your mouth, I'd say, yeah. When you have a sore or any kind of health issue that's a healing, or a sore, something in your mouth, a wound inside of your mouth, just take a little tiny, teensy tiny bit of iodine. Make sure it's just a tiny little bit, not even a drop, less than a drop, and mix it with some water and wipe that part of your mouth with the iodine. But I'm not telling you to do that. I'm saying that's what I've done. It's gotten rid of canker sores. It's helped cuts and wounds. Like if I bite my tongue or something, or I fall down, I hit, like when I bit my lip or whatever, I put that, or a canker sore, a bad canker sore, I put the iodine in my mouth. No more canker sores. It actually cured my canker sore problem. So that was a little bit of valuable information that I gave out. I wasn't wasting people's time. I'm not wasting someone's time. If someone is like, oh, you wasted my time, well, just stop watching me. Don't go do something else. Watch someone else's channel. If I got you mad because you feel like I'm wasting your time, I try. But being more efficient with how you spend your money, it's something that just should become an automatic habit, so that you save, instead of you just habitually spending that much money on that, you stop doing that or change, and you live more efficiently, then you have more money. I don't know why. Why is that? Yeah, being alone a lot. You will save you money is if you don't go out, stay home, stay in your apartment, stay in your house as much as you possibly can. Only go anywhere if it's really close by to where you live, or if you absolutely have to go there, you don't have a choice. Then otherwise, for me, I'd say don't travel, don't fly, don't ride trains, don't get out, go leave your home for a period of time for entertainment or for leisure. Try to make your home where you have your leisure, where you get refreshed, where you recreate at your own domain and you're on your own property. Don't spend money to leave where you live to go somewhere else to recreate. By me saying that, I'm like, how much money, if you go, yeah, you're right. I went on that vacation and it was just like, well, I got there, it was no big deal. And I spent all this time and spent money on hotel rooms and taxis and getting airline tickets and that. And it took me all the time and hassle and everything. And I can't come home and I'm like $1,000 poorer than if I would have just gone like bowling and got a ping pong table and had my neighbor come over and play ping pong and went to the local park and played basketball and and maybe put horseshoes in my yard and played horseshoes and did something like I could have done that and I could have like spent like maybe $150 or $200 instead of $1,000 and had just as good of a time. Had just like a different kind of like, oh, I played ping pong, that was fun. I played basketball, that was fun. I played horseshoes, that was fun. We have board games. I've invited some people close by over. People I work with, we had played board games or cards. And I wasn't going to the airport, taking a cab, paying for parking, getting on a plane, getting to another airport, getting a cab, going to a hotel, unpacking. For what? Stay there a week to lay on a beach, right? And just be bored laying on a beach. Yeah, it'd be nice to do that for a day or two, but then be like, oh, okay, this is just laying on a beach all day. How long can I do this for? Anyhow, I don't get it. It's like I have to, unfortunately, I agree with most of the anti-natalists. And then I agree with, it pains me to say this. It's hard for me to really say, but I agree with evilism. I don't like it. It seems like it's harsh. It seems like overkill, but it is. That I don't see how anything that humans do is going to matter in the long run. No matter who you are, you could be the Pharaoh of Egypt and have 1,000 men and women, 1,000 mostly men, slaves, build a big pyramid. It take like 3 generations to do, and then you'd be buried inside of it. And I would go, well, it's kind of like modern times, but the billionaires are doing the same thing. The billionaires today are like the Pharaoh, and they want a monument in this world so that when they're gone, everybody will, ooh, oh, who were they? Oh, they were great. Oh, they did this and that and this and that. And they say their name all the time, and their names are written in the big, carved into granite on monuments, and they make statues of them, and they have a real elaborate cemetery crypt. Or they have like a big building with their name on it. Buildings and institutions are named after them. But people want to be like the Pharaoh of Egypt, but only modern times. It's the same. They want to be like immortalized, but in a different weird kind of a way. But really deep down, we all know that it's all going to go away eventually. Everything humans ever made. If aliens come to the Earth millions of years from now, or hundreds of thousands of years from now, aliens find the Earth, they'll dig in the mountain and they'll find a layer of plastic. So a million years from now, aliens will come, and they might find the Voyager record. They might find the probes that we sent out, and they might find the Mars lander might be all worn off. The dust from the dust storms and the CO2 buffering against it in the high winds. It might be just worn down, but it'll still be there. And aliens will find only certain things, but most of what humans have done will be what we have turned to dust and reconstituted back into the Earth's geology. Well, it's really how you spend your, this is the now. There's only the now. I think was philosophers speak in terms of there's no future, there's no past. There's only what we make of right now, what we do in the moment. But part of my channel was promoting the idea of a time capsule. My idea of the ideal time capsule would be take every record of every document, every movie, every piece of music, every scientific discovery, all the information that we have, and preserve that in a like a time capsule, so that it's somewhere where it won't be ever damaged. It'll be preserved, and then in the far future, it would be in the most inert place that we could put it, and then would be eventually the extraterrestrials would find it, right? So we have this inkling that someday we'll find aliens, someday, and now everybody's all excited about that could happen. We could hear a radio signal or find a artifact, or that it would be aliens, that would prove aliens. But it's sad to say, but it would be more likely that they would find our garbage. Because you don't think about just a narrow window of time, which is just your own lifetime, just a very narrow window of time. Think about tens of hundreds and thousands of years, and that no matter where humans, if we go extinct, there's still something that was like an archive, right? That's left of our best things that we did, or the best music that was ever composed, or all the great works of art, all the great works of literature, and the scientific discoveries, and poetry, and culture, things, that would be preserved. And that would be the connection to aliens. If we ever had any kind of contact with aliens, it wouldn't be while we're here alive. It would be we're gone and we've become extinct, and they find any kind of technology or remnant of humans that were alive. Let's see my cat, right? She's okay. She sleeps. She's taking a nap. Before I lived here, when I sold my house, I lived in a little trailer in the woods. And when I lived in that little trailer in the woods, it was like a fifth wheeler from the 70s. If you know what that is, like one of these real long trailers that has a bed over the tow hitch, or where the tow goes on the bed of the truck. That bed, the bedroom's over that, and it has a kitchen and a little bathroom and a dining area in that, and a little bedroom in the front. And that, so I lived in one of those, and I only had cold water. I didn't have hot water. And I didn't have any I had a little heater buddy for heat, propane bottle on a heater buddy. And that's how I kept warm in the winter. And it was because it was so small, I could just have that on a little bit, leave it on like on low setting all night. But I had to have a carbon monoxide alarm with that. Heater buddy, it's called. They use it. You could use it with a 5-gallon propane tank. They're pretty good. I used it, and it was old, but it got clogged up, so it stopped working. I just had to brush it off. I had to wire brush it and clean the carbon off, and it started working again. Because the piezoelectric wouldn't start the gas. There's a built-in safety that will make the gas not come back on, and you can just push that piezoelectric button. You can push it again and again and again, and it won't ignite any gas. So what happens is that there's a ball bearing in there. If it tips over, the ball bearing falls, and it keeps the gas from coming out. But it gets too much burn. It burns a lot. It gets like an ash in there, and it stops working. So you have to clean that out. A heater buddy. Yeah, look up a heater buddy. Even outside, you could use one in a tent too. If it's not windy, it's windy and you're in a tent, it sucks in the winter. You better have almost like a tent inside of a tent. If it's windy. Da 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 da, yay! Da 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 da, yay! Da 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 da, yay! Da 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 da. So what I was doing for a while is I had these boulders I dug up on my property, and I would take them and I'd throw them really far, pick them up and just throw them like that really hard, and carry them around my yard. But that was like inside. I use these or either my 15-pound dumbbells. Need to get a set of 20 pounds. And when my wife had the neuropathy really bad, and she was taking metformin and statins and gabapentin for nerves, and it was killing her. All the meds she took, and then the diabetes was the damage from sugar. So your blood can't provide nutrients to your cells, which is the sugar. The insulin allows your cells to receive the energy they need to be healthy, to metabolize. And if you have diabetes, the sugar in your blood can't get absorbed into your tissue. That's basically in your tissues. Just all your really small nerves, they're the first to die. So you'll have tingling, right? That's your nerves dying. And you're tingling in your hands and your feet. And that's dead. Those are nerves dying. I went to the doctor, and the doctor told this to my wife while we're in the doctor's office. The doctor's explaining all this. At that point, we were always independent. She would go to the doctor and take care of her medical needs on her own, and I would go to the doctor, and the doctor would take care of my medical needs. I wasn't involved in any of her really medical things until she couldn't drive anymore. And then it was, I pick up a prescription to take her to the doctor. And oh, your health, you got to guard your health. Find out things that you do in your life that make you unhealthy and just try to taper off of that. You know, if it's alcohol, if it's tobacco, if it's a substance, sugar, if it's like too many sweets or too many sodas or too much salt, or for me it's salt. And the thing is, that salt is weird. And I learned this in high school, that there's this, it's called osmosis. What osmosis is, if you have a cell wall, and one side, in the inside of the outside of the cell, you have a different amount of salinity. So let's say the liquid surrounding your cells is a higher salinity than the liquid inside of your cells. So what happens is there's pressure in between the walls of the cell to absorb or release the sodium. That's called osmosis. But what happens is high blood pressure, when you have a lot of salt in your blood, it makes your blood thicker. So your blood's more thick, and it's harder for your body to pump the blood around, and you get hypertension, which is the systolic. Your systolic reading will go higher because it's taking the heart more energy to push that denser fluid through your arterial capillary network back to your veins to go get reoxygenated. It's causing your heart to have to work harder because your blood is thicker with the saline, with the higher salt content. And that is what's happened to me with my high blood pressure. Like, don't get me wrong, I could go and get a bag of chips. Or I could go get like a big can of like a Campbell soup, or I could say, well, any kind of processed food that has like really high sodium. I couldn't believe like burrito wraps, right? Like looking at burrito wraps. I'm like going, one burrito wrap has 300 milligrams. Is it micro? Maybe it's micro. mg of salt, right? And I'm starting to read all the labels on the food I'm buying because I'm a 65-year-old man and I have high blood pressure. But it's something that I realize that if I don't eat a lot of salty food, then I don't have, my blood pressure doesn't go as high. And then when I get tinnitus, when I start noticing a lot of tinnitus, like that shh, if it's perfectly quiet, there's no other sound, I'll hear a real like a hissing sound. It almost sounds just like that. And if I have a lot of salt, and I'll eat a big salty meal or salty chips or salty food, then that'll get bad. I'll notice it like way more. I'll hear like that hissing will go up in a volume. And then if I like work out and drink a lot of water, or lemon water, and eat bananas and salads and rice and beans and potatoes, and don't add too many spices too. I notice that some spices have a lot of that make your blood pressure go up. So like garlic salt and onion salt and but the blood pressure runs in my family, hypertension, strokes. That's what hypertension, if you have high blood pressure for too long, it puts a lot of strain on your arteries and your capillaries in your heart too. It's just not cholesterol. Cholesterol is another one too. If you have a high LDL, that's usually like you're eating a lot of like deep fried food. If you go out to eat, you're going to get high LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. Because what they're doing is when they prepare that food, they're making it grease. They're using something in grease, a lot of grease, deep frying it in it, and you're eating that, and your body has to process all that, all the oils, fats, and that's a bad cholesterol. Goes into your heart. Takes a long time to work that through your body system and excrete it. If you do a lot of exercise, or you're sweating a lot, or you go to a sweat lodge, or do like your health club membership where you have your steam room and sweat a lot, you could bring your LDL, you could bring that down. But the HDL is the better one. That's the one that's like where you get fat from like nuts, whole grains, like sunflower seeds, coconuts, not to excess, just for me, I like coconut. I use coconut butter, but I try to use it as a flavoring instead of butter. And I use a nutritional yeast too. That's good for like popcorn. You'll instead of buying chips, stop buying chips and buy popcorn and put it on your stove in a pan and get used to eating popcorn. Put a little. I like to use coconut butter for flavoring, and then I get the nutritional yeast. You use that on the popcorn, and it'll make it good instead of salt. And if you stop buying chips, you stop buying soda, and you only bathe in cold water. Turn your electric water heater off, your gas water heater. Turn it off for a while. If you're a single guy or a single person, single gal, and do those 3 things, and it'll like really save you a lot of money. All right, you'll be at the end of the month, you'll start noticing you have more money in your bank account. Go to the grocery store, instead of spending $150 for 2 bags of groceries for a week, right? What are groceries? What's the average cost to feed a person, an adult, today for groceries? I know it's different for me, but so I like the quick oats. I like the basmati rice. I like pinto beans. I like lentils. I like split peas. And lentils and split peas, you can cook those in a rice cooker. If you know that, so use your rice cooker for split peas and lentils. But you got to add a little more water. But if you have a rice cooker, they're good to have. And then potatoes and like fresh vegetables, tomatoes, sometimes avocados, not too often, and whole grain bread, and like sometimes I'll drink like oat milk or almond milk or soy milk or coconut milk. And Pacific Foods used to sell the hemp milk at the regular grocery stores, but now they only sell it at the farmer's market, and it's like $5 for a quart of hemp milk. And then there's other like nut milks, like cashew milk, and Silk, I think, makes a lot of that. Silk makes a cashew and an almond and a coconut. And then So Delicious. So Delicious is the same company as Silk, which is Danone. Danone, maybe I'm mispronouncing it. It's a French company, Danone. Yeah, I have an ETF because I'm in the my brokerage account won't let me trade foreign. It won't let me trade on any other brokerage except NASDAQ, some over the counter, and the New York Stock Exchange. Companies only listed in those specific areas. It will only let me trade those, and not like anything like on the French or a lot of the South American or South Africa or Indonesia or some Australia too, and other world exchanges and the other Hong Kong exchange, it restricts you to just like the American exchanges. But it might let you do like Toronto too. It might have the over the counter that are ADRs. But like Dan and I bought in a fund. It was in the top 10 holdings, so I bought the fund. It had other things in there too, like I think it had like General Mills, and I'm not sure the other funds that were in the top 10, but it changes because it's managed. Yeah, you pay like a certain percentage, so many basis points you pay for your for ETFs. You know, they take something out of it. It's usually like less than 1%, but it's still a lot over time. Yeah, Dannon. So Dannon, they have like, and I think Beyond Meat, which is like another stock I own, I have like about almost 2,000 shares of Beyond Meat, and I'm dollar cost average into Beyond Meat at $1.40 at like $17.50. I think I have maybe 1,800 shares right now. It goes down, I buy a little bit more. It goes down, I buy a little bit more. It goes down, I buy a little bit more. Like keeps going down, I buy a little bit more. And I think to myself, when I'm eating my Beyond Meat burger patty or my Beyond Meat sausage links or my Beyond Meat, I have a pepperoni, like a little pepperoni wrap now. It's pretty good. And they have the steak tips that are, I didn't really like the steak. I like the burgers, so they're pretty good. But I'll cook a Beyond Meat burger, and then I'll cut it up into little pieces, and I'll put it in a pan with a potato. Like I'll bake potatoes, I'll boil potatoes, and then peel the skin off, and then I'll cut up all the potatoes, and I'll put them in containers and put them in the fridge. And then when I want a meal, I'll just like fry a Beyond Meat burger patty, frozen patty, and then I'll cook it good in a pan, and then I'll put that potato that I already pre-cooked in the pan too with the Beyond Meat burger, and chop it up, and it makes the plant-based meat stretches a little further. But I really like their product. I mean, I taste it and I like it. I mean, it's more money, but it's ethical. Like, well, I've had had a lot of time I spent with animals as a child and as an adult being around animals. So I think my time is running out here. Maybe I should end this so I'm not getting anybody coming in or anything. I'm in 2 hours into this. I put these on and I listen to myself. That's what I do. So I'm just making a record of myself to say, what was I doing on that day? And I'll go back and I'll rewatch my video. And it just kind of like, yeah, I told myself that video I was going to just use cold water. I told myself I was just going to drink lemonade. I'm not buy sodas. I told myself I would just like make popcorn instead of buying chips, and be more healthy and exercise, and maybe just share my thoughts out loud and see if somebody comes around and says, yeah, I agree with you there, or yeah, I'd like to get some of those too, or oh, I hear you, I understand, or just like a wave, hey, how you doing, like that, or anything. I don't know. It doesn't matter.